Orada, and good morning, delegates. I make no apology for the somber start to today. I wish people like Michelle Websdale didn't have to tell her story. And I wish people like Spencer Wragg didn't have to lobby forces to do the right thing on prevention. And I wish people like Richie Murray and Paul Williams didn't have to work so goddamn hard to compile accurate data to demonstrate what policing needs to do. I wish that my colleague Brian Booth didn't have to speak to MPs and peers about the tragedy that's right in front of us that nobody seems to know about. And I wish that you, our branch reps, didn't have to deal with the aftermath of suicide within your forces. But you do. We talk about the job getting more dangerous on our streets. It's even more dangerous in our heads. Every case is a tragedy. Every case sends a jolt right through the force. We've had too many funerals, too many wakes, and too many anniversaries. Conference. It's got to stop. We know what needs to change. First, admit there's a problem. Forces need to record suicide and attempted suicide. And if they won't, the law needs to change to make them. Police officer suicide needs to be reportable under RIDDOR so that it's properly investigated. And if the Health and Safety Executive disagrees, let's force a change in how they work. Second, invest in the prevention. Don't wait for a tragedy to act. There is absolutely no excuse for any force not to bring in the STEP program, especially when so many of these tools are free and easy to adopt. It should not take an officer dying by suicide to make change happen. And third, the link between the police misconduct regime and suicide needs to be acknowledged, accepted, and broken for good. Conference. Of the 56 police officers that we've lost through suicide between 2022 and 2024, and the 120 attempted suicides, 71 of them were under criminal or misconduct investigations at that time. That's not a statistical fluke. It's not an irregularity. It's a tragic trend. It's a function of the race of who can sound the toughest on misconduct. And in that race, what gets left behind? The duty of care that's owed to you. Risk assessments, proper welfare checks, compassion, and the professional respect to treat people with dignity. The misconduct regime has to exist to get rid of people that simply aren't fit to wear our uniform. It must be rigorous to protect us and to protect the public. But it shouldn't take the Police Federation of England and Wales to be the conscience of policing and ask, why are so many people involved in these processes dying? We have been clear what's needed on this. Despite our work, despite advocacy from Oscar Kilo and other wellbeing organisations, despite the Samaritans' support, the progress has been too slow. So it's time to do something different, to leave no stone unturned, and to examine the data, to hold leaders to account, and to prevent any more deaths. because one more is too many. And we're not waiting for the law to change or for someone to grow a conscience. We're pushing politicians to change it. Following a series of meetings with the Lords, our amendment to the Policing and Crime Bill, making it the law to report suicide and attempted suicide, has been tabled by Lord Bailey of Paddington. It is supported by peers from all parties, and it will be debated in Parliament early in the new year. Conference. That's the sort of leadership I believe in, one that will deliver for you. I was proud to be elected your national chair this summer. I have the privilege of going round the country, meeting you, our reps, who give so much of your time, your energy, and expertise in supporting our members. And meeting so many of our members whose dedication and experience in policing requires our help like never before. I want to talk about how we move forward together, how we lead together, because it's time for change. You will see no better example of that than conference this year. There's no Home Secretary. Every conference that I can remember, the Home Secretary is pitched up. Mostly, they'll give a speech full of platitudes, some pats on the back. Sometimes it's a blunt challenge. And I remember the one where it was a flat-out accusation. And in response, we've treated the Home Sec's appearance here as a vent and to let off some steam. On our best behaviour, they'd be heard with muted grumbles. On others, we'd really let them know how we felt. Lots of sound and lots of rightful fury. But what did it actually achieve? It might have made us feel better for a bit, but it didn't build any influence. It didn't stop the systemic destruction of the service that we've been proud to represent. It didn't show as an essential to the reform that would so desperately benefit the members that we all work for. They simply gave the speech, took the heat, shut the door, and walked away like nothing had happened. And I truly believe that our culture was a part of that approach. We liked throwing the stones from the outside because our structure and our processes meant we couldn't get it together enough to build that platform from the inside. Conference. You can't fix a broken record by playing it louder. Our approach will be honest and open with government and with chiefs. And you better believe it that we will call out the bad. We will point out the irony of police leaders and politicians who've spent decades denying the storm and now sell umbrellas like they saw it coming. We'll demand police reform or reform of and abolition to an IOPC regime that can, without impunity, hang a cloud of suspicion over our members for years before coming to a determination. We'll be clear that police deserve better protection from those who seek to cause us injury, as well as those numpties who stick cameras in our faces to incite a response. And we will be determined and defiant when our Copped Enough campaign calls for pay restoration, the industrial rights that we deserve, and dignity and fairness in modern workplaces. But we need to do more than that. We need to influence on change. We want to restore policing as a career that gives the people brave, skilled, and responsible enough to do it, a good life. We want to lead a new workplace culture that is positive, inclusive, and supportive of being a good family member as well as a good copper. A service that rewards your service in it. Many of my predecessors have stood on this platform and made the argument that morale is through the floor, demand through the roof, and that we're no longer protecting the people who protect our public. They were right. Policing is broken. That's very true. Those really bad days when I started my career, they are every shift now. We're hemorrhaging experience. We're beaten up physically and metaphorically. We're the punching bag society and social media reaches for. Late finishes, missing breaks, decisions made by algorithms rather than common sense. I get it. It wears you down. Policing can't just stick a mindfulness app on the internet and say, we've taken care of our people. We've got to fix the day job. And that means proper staffing, realistic workloads, and leadership that asks, what are you facing instead of how are you feeling? But then does something about it too. But conference, being right just isn't enough, because that anger is forged in experience. We must use that collective experience of everyday policing to set out the changes we need to see. Because if not us, who? The track record on police reform isn't exactly a Grammy winner. Police reform's been stop, it's been start, with a heavy bias towards the stop, or a change of government, a change of Prime Minister, Home Secretary, and then we're back to the drawing board again. So in that vacuum comes the mad little ideas. Let's have fewer forces, because bigger and more remote is always better. Let's have an algorithm that decides where crime will be. Well, it turns out it was always in the same underfunded postcode, policed by the same underfunded, exhausted officers. Who knew? And you can guarantee that someone will always pipe up with AI or procurement, and after which everyone nods sagely and proceeds to do the square root of nothing. What's the reality out there? Conference. We can't even get our uniform right. We're pouring more bodies into a leaky bucket. We're breaking proud and brave people. But pride doesn't pay for petrol in your car. And bravery doesn't make the bills disappear. The world that we signed up to 5, 10, 20 years ago, or even 30, isn't the world we're operating now. The budgets are tighter, the workloads are heavier, and the political and public rhetoric is angrier. And while everyone else writes about new ways of working, the real question is, who's doing this working? Who's there on the beat? Who's at the scene press? And who's in the middle of a stackload of investigations? Who's answering the call when things go sideways? That's the front line. That's you. And you deserve more than just lip service. For too many of our members, it feels like we're trapped in policing's own Somme. The people in the trenches taking the hits, while the generals study the maps and wonder why morale is so low, before simply doing the same as before. Conference. I can understand the cynicism and disengagement as a reaction of that sorry state of affairs. But it won't change them. It's time to change that record. Police reform can't happen without sustained investment. But it will not happen without you. We've got what the chiefs and the mandarins haven't. The recent lived experience of what policing is like on the streets, in the homes where violence pervades, online where threats multiply exponentially. We can taste the blood in our mouths after each assault. We know what it's like to grade images of child sexual abuse and then go home and play with the kids like nothing's the matter. We know the frustration of another botched IT rollout, and we feel the inauthenticity of another "we really care, honest we do" initiative. We experience leadership in all its forms. Who better than you to comment on what needs to change? So, we will need to be the force for that change. We get tarred as being cynical, but the cynics are the politicians and the media using, policing and police as a football to kick around because it suits their particular agenda. We're not the ones saying record numbers of resignations aren't a problem, because we can just lower the bar for recruitment until any Herbert can walk through the door. No disrespect to anyone called Herbert. We're not the ones using misconduct or vetting as a Trojan horse to get rid of anyone whose face simply doesn't fit. And we're not the ones telling constables a pay deal barely scraping the cost of living increase is what they, and I quote, deserve. And let's remember, they recommended that we got less. We're not the ones targeting officers on restricted or adjusted duties, because in that cynical world, it's the path of least resistance. Conference. In spite of all of this, I am hugely positive about policing and about its future. I still believe in what this job can be. Not the headlines, not the bureaucracy, and not the nonsense, but the real human work that happens in every street, every shift, and every station. That belief isn't blind optimism. It's built on experience, the experience of thousands of officers who still turn up, step forward, and make a difference every single day. If police reform is consistent and listens to those officers, truly listens, there's every reason to be hopeful. Because no one understands what needs fixing better than the people actually doing the job. They know what works, what doesn't, and what would make the biggest difference to public safety and those whose bravery builds it. When reform starts from the ground up, not the top down, we get more than policy papers and press releases. We get progress that lasts. And I know what some people will say. It's too late, that it's not like it used to be. You've all heard it. The Juliet Foxtrot mentality. The job's well and truly, well, you know the rest. But it's not. What's broken is morale. What's broken is trust. What's missing is leadership that listens and pays that respect to the people who keep showing up every single day. The job itself, the purpose, the people who've got your back, the moments that still make your heart race, the laughs you have with people who've got your back. That's still there. It's still worth fighting for. So no, the job's not done. It's waiting to be rebuilt by people who still believe in what policing can be and who refuse to ever give up on it. We are realistic about policing, but we are also positive. Because we've seen and felt what policing looks like at its very best. And we know that with the right voices finally being heard, it can be that way far more often. But with that positivity has to come honesty. Because the simple truth is, the people who want bad cops gone the most are the good cops who have to serve next to them. They're the ones whose hard work is overshadowed, whose integrity is questioned, and whose pride in the job takes the hit. There is no organisation out there more proud of policing than us. So there should be no organisation so fiercely committed to making it better. Doing this means we won't shy away from misconduct. We confront the issues that make our workplace a bad place for far too many colleagues. We face it, we fix it, and we make sure it never defines us. Because the story of policing isn't written by its worst moments. It's written by the people who refuse to let those moments win rather than stand idly by. That's why I think it's right to condemn incontrovertible evidence of bad behaviour. Not because it makes a good headline, but because it demonstrates to people having to serve in those conditions that we hear them and we won't stand for it. From custody suites to community beats, we won't stand for it. Where decent, dedicated officers are made to feel alienated for doing the right thing, we won't stand for it. Where the loudest voices drown out the bravest ones, we won't stand for it. Where silence is being a mate and integrity is being a rat, we won't stand for it. Because the culture we want in policing isn't complicated. It's one where respect runs both ways. Where people can call out what's wrong without fear and be backed when they do. Where leadership means listening as much as it means directing. That's how you rebuild pride, through leaders who earn trust, not demand it. Through colleagues who look out for each other and not look the other way. Ours is a service about service. It's about the people who keep turning up, the ones who still believe in duty, even when the system feels like it's given up on them. And it's about saying enough. Enough of being taken for granted. Enough of being told that's just how it is. Because it doesn't have to be this way. Conference. We will speak with clarity, with courage, and with conviction. We will fight without fear or favour for pay that respects, investment that supports you, workplaces that protect you, and culture that restores pride to policing. We'll tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable. We'll challenge power even when it's unpopular. And we'll never stop believing that this job, the job, is worth fighting for. Because policing is still full of good people doing extraordinary work in the most extraordinary times. The job isn't broken. The system is. Its people are. Let's begin this work together to fix it. Thank you, conference.